This is Gemar Nedarim Daf Pei Dalid, all the learning for this month, the month of Teves. As we wind down this incredible month of Teves, the last few days has been generously sponsored as a Schos Aliyas Neshama for Aryeh ben Yaakov B'siyata Deshmaya. The learning of the entire Chabura should bring Aryeh ben Yaakov, as the end of this month coincides with the end of Nedarim, to an higher iron place in Gan Eden Shamayla, closer to the Kisei HaKavod, as Aryeh ben Yaakov is Nene from the Ziv HaShechina, and ultimately be a Melatz Yesher for his entire family and the entire Chabura. And again, if anyone else would like to partner for the coming months, the month of Shvat, Tu B'Shvat, the wonderful Chag HaYilanais, please reach out. So we're holding on the bottom of Pei Gimel Amid Beis, and we're holding at the two dots. And the Gemara we're holding on the bottom Pei Daled Amid Beis. I don't know what I said in the beginning. This is Gemara in Nedarim Daf Pei Hey. We're holding on the bottom of Pei Daled Amid Beis as the Gemara quotes the Mishnah. That the Mishnah taught us, Kohanim v'Levim nehenin li yitlu. That if a woman makes a neder, it doesn't have to be a woman, I should say. If anyone makes a neder, just the beginning of the Mishnah was talking about a woman, that Kohanim and Levim cannot get any benefit from me. And they said Kohanim and Levim plain, not any specific Kohanim and Levim. Then what is the halacha? Said the Mishnah that the Kohanim and Levim are able to take what is rightfully theirs, the Chumas and Maisris, against this person's will. So says the Gemara, from the fact that the Mishnah taught us that even after one makes a neder from benefiting Kohanim and Levim, they're still able to take Chumais and Maisris Alma. What do we see from this? Daladim and the base. 8 lines from the bottom of the two dots, we see Toivas Ana Einoi Mamain. We see that the choice of giving the right to give to a Kohen is not considered Mamain, and that is the reason why we see in the Mishnah that the Kohanim and Leviim are able to take on their own, because if it was true that Toivas Hana was Mamain, then that would be considered benefit, and the Kohanim and Leviim would not be able to take on their own, from the fact that the Mishnah teaches us that if one makes a neder Hana from Kohanim and Leviim that they're not able to benefit. What do we see from the Mishnah? That they're able to take it. Then obviously that the Toivas Hana, the benefit of giving, of choosing which Kohen, is not considered Mammon. But it asks the Gemara, Ima Seifa, we continue in the Mishnah, and the Mishnah teaches, Kohanim Elu Leviim Elu, if someone makes a neder against these Kohanim and these Leviim, Nanin Li, that they're not able to benefit from me. What did the Mishnah say? Yitlu Acherim. The Mishnah taught that the halacha is other Kohanim and Leviim come and take the Chumas and Maisers. So Medayik infers the Gemara, other Kohanim and Leviim could take it. Avol Lahani, but these that he made a neder from, they're not able to take it. Why are they not able to take it? The mere recipient, the mere receiving of the Chumas and Maisris, that itself is of course not considered Mamain. Why is that not considered Mamain? Because that is rightfully theirs. That comes to the Kohanim and the Leviim from whom? From Hashem. The only thing that they're gaining is what? Is the fact that I'm giving it to this Kohen and not another Kohen. So from the fact that these Kohanim cannot take Chumas and Maisers, proves the Gemara, seemingly shows that Toivas Hana, Alma, Toivas Hana is yes, Mamain. And that's the reason if I make a Neder Hana from Reuven the Kohen, from Shimon the Levi, Reuven and Shimon cannot take, because they're getting benefit, the fact that I gave it to them, that there's a benefit that I gave them something which is theirs. So ask the Gemara that we see from the Mishnah, seemingly from one statement to the next, contradictory remarks. Amar Rav Aishia responds, Rav Aishia, Loi Kasha, Ha-Rebi, Ha-Rav Yesi, Rav Yehuda. So we seemingly have a contradiction as to how we view Toivas Hana, whether it is Mammon. Again, let's just one more time. Toivas Hana is the fact that I have this entity called, let's use my cup of water as always. I have this entity called Chuma, it's called Maisris, and I'm giving it to you. Now you, the Kohen, this is yours. I'm not giving you something of my own. This item is yours. But the pleasure that I could give it to you and that you got it from me, that's called Taivas Hana. So the Gemara is asking that from the Mishnah itself, from statement A to statement B, is inferring that Taivas Hana is yes or no Mamain. It is a contradiction. Answers the Gemara, it's a stira. No, it's Rebbe and Rav Yisrael, Rav Yehuda. They themselves argue about this very point, whether the pleasure, the giving of Chumas and Meisers to specific Kayin A and B, is that entity called Mamain or not. Baruch atah Adonai. Titania, 4 lines from the bottom, as we learned in a Brisa. And actually, today's Gemara, as if we peek to the side over here in the B'seres Hashas, we'll see this is Gemara in Kedusha, this is Gemara elsewhere. It's a very classical Gemara about Taivas Hana, the exact Shakla V'Tarya as we're going to see. The Tanya is learned to the Brisa, Akoinev Tevloi Shel Chaveiroi. You steal Tevel. Tevel is untithed produce. It's something that Shumais and Meisters were not taken off yet. So if someone steals Tevel from his friend, Va'achloi, and he eats it, what do you owe him? Because you stole from him, but part of what you stole wasn't his. If I steal this gallon of, wine from you, the whole gallon's not yours. Why not? Because of this gallon, you got to give to the Kayin. Truma, you got to give to the Levi, Meiser. So there's a percentage in there that's not really yours. So how much do I have to pay you for that which I stole? Says the Brisa, Mishalim Loi Demei Tivloi Divrei Rebbe. Rebbe holds you have to pay the value of Tevel. Rav Yossi, Rav Yehuda, Eimer, Einoi Mishalim Ela Demei Chulin Shabai. You don't pay for the whole thing, says Rav Yossi, Rav Yehuda, because the whole thing isn't yours. All I have to pay for is the chulin, the unconsecrated parts that are within this larger entity that I took. So says the Gemara, what is this machlekes Rebbe and Rav Yossi, Rav Yehuda? Whether I pay you for the whole thing or whether I pay you for just the chulin. My lab hakamiflegi suggests the Gemara. As we turn over to today's Daf Peham and Aleph, suggests the Gemara that what is this machlekes? The Rebbe Savar Taivas Hana Mamain, Rav Yossi, Rav Yehuda Savar Taivas Hana Einai Mamain. So suggests the Gemara that which we're trying to figure out, the steer in our Mishnah from Reisha to Seifa, suggests the Gemara perhaps is indeed a machlekes between whom? Rav Yossi, Rav Yehuda, and Rebbe. That just like we have a question of how much do you have to pay when you steal the tevel of your friend, the Rav Yossi, Rav Yehuda says Rav Yossi, Rav Yehuda, you have to pay just for the chulin. Why just the chulin? Because clearly the Gemara infers that Rav Yossi, Rav Yehuda holds that the Taivas Hana, what are those parts of Chumas and Meisers in there? Again, I steal this gallon of wine. The whole gallon's not yours because the Chuma and the Meiser goes to the Kain and the Levi. But you, the Yisrael, the owner, what right do you have in it? You only have the right to give that Chuma, that Meiser to the Kain and the Levi. So Rav Yossi, Rav Yehuda holds, that's not called Mammon. I don't have to pay you for that. All I have to pay you is for the clean chulin that you, the Yisrael, would gain from. Whereas Rebbe says, no, Taivas Hana is Mamain. Says Rebbe, what did you steal from him? Not just the wine you would drink. You also stole the fact that he could have given the Chumas, the Meisers, to this Kain, to this Levi, and that as well, says Rebbe, seemingly as the Gemara proves right now, is considered Mami. So therefore the Gemara wants to say the machlekes in our Mishnah is indeed a machlekes Rebbe versus Rav Yossi, Rav Yehuda. Answers the Gemara, Loi, that is not the machlekes Rebbe and Rav Yossi, Rav Yehuda. The Kuli Alma Taivas Hana Einoi Mamain. I can prove to you that really everyone agrees that Taivas Hana, the choice of which Kayin you're giving it to, is not considered Mamain. Elahacha. So what is the machlekes between Rebbe and Rav Yossi, Rav Yehuda? Elahacha b'ma'nai shlo hormu kamifligi. The machlekes is, how do we view a matana that was not separated? This gallon of wine, this entity of tevel that was not separated. How do we view this? Do we view it as if the Chumas and Meisers were separated, and therefore I'm obligated to pay you for that as well, says Rebbe? Or says Rav Yossi, Rav Yehuda, no, they were never separated, so I'm not obligated to pay you for them. But I asked the Gemara 1 second, but if everyone is of the opinion that Taivas Hana is not a Mamain, so what's the difference? It is separated, it isn't separated. According to Rabbi, it's considered as if it's separated, but who cares? How could I pay you for it? Mali hormu, mali loy hormu. What's the difference? It is separated, it's not separated. And regardless of that detail, it's Einay Mamain. There's no dollar value to it. So who cares that it's considered separated according to Rabbi? I still shouldn't have to compensate you for it because it's not considered Mamain. Ella, so the Gemara says, you're right. Hainu taima de Rabbi. So rather says the Gemara, the reason that Rabbi says that you have to pay for the entire value and not just for the chulin that's inside of it. Kansua rabbanon leganif. Really, this has nothing to do with manas kohuna, as yes mammon, as yes mammon or not. The reason I have to pay you in this isolated case when I stole your tevel, says Rebbe, it's a kenas, it's a good old-fashioned penalty fine imposed by Chazal. I stole your item. I have to now pay you for more, even than the value that you would have gotten it from. Ask the Gemara, explains the Gemara, ki hechi deloy lignov. So that one does not come to steal, a good old-fashioned kenas. Answer number 1, how to explain the Machlekes Rebbe and Rav Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. A second way of explaining it suggests the Gemara that really I could tell you that Manas Kuna maybe is called Mamain. Taivas Hana is Mamain. But Rav Yossi Rabbi Yehuda, why does he say you don't have to pay for it if it's called Mamain? Because Savar Kansur Rabbanon Lebalabayis. The exact opposite. The first answer was we're penaltying, we're fining the Ganif. Second answer is we're fining the Balabais. The Balabais, what did he do wrong? I have a gallon of wine that you stole. Why am I getting fined? You know why? You should never have kept tevel. Why do you have a gallon of wine that you didn't take of Jubas and Meiser sitting in your house? For that reason, there's a kanas. So 2 different ways of explaining the Machlekes Rebbe and Rav Yossi Rabbi Yehuda. But after explaining this Machlekes, we're back to square one. Let's go back. We started off today a steer in the Mishnah. The implications of the Mishnah are Seiser contradict each other. Is Taivas Hana Mammon or not? In the cases then I made a neder, either from all Kohanim or these Kohanim. So Rav Amar, to answer that up, Shaini Truma, says Rav that in reality the Mishnah holds that Taivas Hana, yes, is considered Mammon. And that's the reason why when the Kohanim and Levim are not able to take Shumas HaMaisers when I make a neder from Elu these. So why in the first case of the Mishnah, when it came to Truma, that I asked her from all Kehanim, what's the reason they were able to take it against my will? Tiny Truma, Dainu Taima, Tiedlu Al Karchai, Truma is different, they can take against my will. Why? Misham de Truma Lechazia Ella Lekehanim. Because Truma is only fit for Kahanim. V'kivan the Kaasi lemisra alayu. And since I'm coming and I'm answering this on everyone, so therefore what? Shavye Afra Ba'almar, I'm making it into an entity of Afar, of dirt, and therefore there's no value. Meaning really I'll tell you that Taivas Hana is Mammon. But because in this one case, the Reish of the Mishnah of Truma, I answered it to everyone, that's why there's no value, it's considered dirt, and that's why the Kehanim could come and take against my will. We continue today's Shir halfway down, Peheyam and Aleph, with a Mishnah. The Mishnah hopefully sound very familiar. One makes a neder, Kainim Sheni Oisa Al Pi Ahaba. A woman says to her husband, I'm making a neder, I'm not going to do any work for the mouth of my father, or Valpi Avicha, for your father, Valpi Achi, my brother, Valpi Achicha, your brother. You can't be made for such a neder. This is not a neder that either afflicts her. It's not called the neder of Inoi Nefesh. It's not a neder that infringes on the husband and wife's relationship, a neder beina lebeina, so the husband can't be made for it. But if she says, case number 2 in the Mishnah, Sheni Oisa Al Picha, but if she makes a neder that she says, a neder, I'm not going to do any work for your mouth, then Einay Tzarech Lahafer, for a different reason, explains the Ran. Because you're not able to make such a neder, because automatically a woman is meshubed to her husband. But Rabbi Kiva Oimer Yafer, in this case, even though the woman is, yes, encumbered and has to give her Ma'aseh Yadayim to her husband, still the husband is able to be made for and should be made for the neder. Why? Shema ta'adif alav yisr min hara ilai. Maybe she will create and she'll produce more than she has to give to him. So it's true that baseline value she has to give to her husband, and the neder is not chal on that. What about the extra? What about the stuff that she makes more than that? On that, says Rabbi Kiva, she should yes be made for the neder. Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri Yomer, a third opinion, says Yafer, the husband should be made for the neder. Why? Maybe he'll come to divorce his wife, and she will then be forbidden to get remarried to him because she is usher to him. So 3 opinions in what happens and when she says that her Maisi Yadayim are usher to her husband. Either he has to do nothing because it's ineffective, he should be made for it for the excess, or he should be made for it for in the eventuality that perhaps they might get divorced. So says the Gemara, Amar Shmuel, Lachak Rav Yochanan ben Nuri, Paskin Shmuel like Rav Yochanan ben Nuri, that you yes need to be made for the neder. So says the Gemara, what do we see from the statement of Shmuel, Lemeimer the Kasavra Shmuel, Adam Makdish, Davar Shlei Balayla? Obviously, we see from over here, according to Shmuel, that one is able to be makdish, one is able to consecrate something that did not come into existence at the moment, because in this case, the Maisi Yadayim after the divorce, the Maisi Yadayim, the earnings of the woman are not in existence yet, and as well, she has not yet become divorced, and therefore she's answering something in the future. And for the fact that Shmuel is saying we pass like Yochanan Nuri that he has to be made for the neder proves that obviously it's effective. So we see Queen Makdish something that did not come into the world yet. On that, asks the Gemara of Ramini, I'll ask you a contradiction from a Gemara in Kedushin, Makdish Maisi Yadei Isha. If someone consecrates that which his wife earns, as we turn over to Pehei Amid Beis, a man makes a neder against the earnings of his wife. What is the halacha? Says the Mishnah in Kedushin. Says the Mishnah, the Mishnah in Ksubis, I know it sounded more familiar. The halacha is that the woman works and eats. She supports herself. Even though he was makdish, she consecrated that which she makes. That's very good, says the Gemara in Ksubis. But at the end of the day, she makes money, and what happens with the money that she makes? She uses that money to support herself. And the excess of that which she makes, Rabbi Meir Oimer says Rabbi Meir hektish. The excess is hektish. And Rabbi Yochanan Sandor Oimer says Rabbi Yochanan Sandor chulin. The excess is chulin, is not hektish. V'amar Shmuel, and Shmuel explained the halacha like Rabbi Yochanan Sandor. We paskin like Rabbi Yochanan Sandor that what? The excess is not hektish. So ask the Gemara and fully goes full circle articulating this question again. Shmuel, Alma, what do we see from the statement of Shmuel? Ein adam makdish davar shaloi balayla. We see from the statement of Shmuel that obviously one cannot be makdish something that did not come into this world. And that's why it's possible like Rabbi Yochanan and Sandler. And that's why it's going to be chulin. The husband said everything my wife makes should go to hektish. It's ineffective. Why is it ineffective? Because the davar shaloi bala olam. So we have a stira in Shmuel, a stira in Rabbi Yochanan and Sandler. So suggest the Gemara 5 lines down, if you're going to suggest, when do we say the lachas like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri al hadafo de kamar that Shmuel only meant on the excess, but maybe perhaps on the base value he does not set away. Says the Gemara, we have a word problem. So lema lach Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri b'hadafa. So Shmuel should have said, this is going again, it's a little bit confusing. There's Rabbi Yochanan Sandler and Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Let's be clear over here. So the question is on Shmuel, that Shmuel on the bottom of Peheyam and Aleph, paskin like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri, and here on Peheyam and Beis, pas like Rabbi Yochanan Sandler. So says the Gemara, maybe Shmuel holds like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri in the bottom of Mov and Aleph, al ha'adafa, on the excess. Says the Gemara, so lema lach Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri ba'adafa. Shmuel should have said that he's pas like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri only on the excess, and he should have made a blanket statement where pas like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. Inami. Another thing Shmuel could have said, halacha kitanekama. He could have said halacha like tanekama. Why did he say Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri specifically? Inami. In halacha Rabbi Kiva, or he could have said halacha is not like Rabbi Kiva. Shmuel doesn't say any of that. Shmuel says straight, carte blanche, we paskin like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri. So I asked the Gemara, we have a contradiction. Does Shmuel go like Rabbi Yochanan ben Nuri? Does Shmuel go like Rabbi Yochanan Sandler? And what is the question in the very root of the matter? Can you be makdish adavar shaloi bala olam? Can you consecrate something that's no longer, not yet in the world? Ella Amar Rav Yosef. So the Gemara concludes and answers. Says Rav Yosef, Shani Koinamais. We have a stira, we have a contradiction between our Rav Yochanan ben Nuri and Rav Yochanan Samler from over there in Ksubis. Says the Gemara, no contradiction. Over there in Ksubis is the regular din. By us, our Gemara Nedarim is shiny kainamos. Nedarim have different rules. Why? Just like you could ask your friend's produce onto yourself, so too you can make a neder, even though it did not come as oiser nami davar shaloi bala olam alav. So even though normally Shmuel holds like Rav Yochanan Sandler that you cannot aser something down in this world, but Nedarim have different rules. Just like in the world of Nedarim, I can make your stuff aser to me, so too I can make something aser that's no longer in the world. Amr le Abaye comes like Abaye, and Abaye says, Rav Yosef, beautiful answer, but there's a problem. I understand. I could ask your fruit on me. Just like I could ask my stuff on my friend. But ask Abaye, the math doesn't work. How can I ask her something that's not in the world yet on my friend? Well, what's the comparison? Shaharei. I can't answer my friend's stuff on someone else. I can't say Reuven stuff is answer to Shimon. Just like I can't answer Reuven stuff to Shimon, how am I able to answer something that did not come into the world of my friend? So asks Abaye, Rav Yosef, it's true, it's a nice chilik that you're being machalik and saying that the Dharma are different, but this chilik doesn't necessarily work because the equation doesn't add up. Where do you see from here that you could answer davar shaloi bala olam? And we can conclude today's share with the words of Rav Huna. Ella Amar Rav Huna, a new Taret, Braid Rav Yeshua, by Meres Yikachu Yidei Oiseyan. Says Rav Huna, Braid Rav Yeshua, a different answer. The Gemara Ksubis is the anomaly. Really, our Gemara is right. Excuse me. You could, yes, consecrate something in this world, not in this world. But we saw in the Gemara Ksubis that you cannot. That case is different, because in the case of the Gemara of Ksubis is Ba'emeres Yikachu Yidei La'iseyem. I'm making hektish my hands to my Creator. My hands are yes in the world. And since my hands are in the world, that's the reason why it could be hektish. The simple reason being because my hands are still in the world. And that's why Rav Yochanan, I think I said it wrong. One more time. Really, we paskin eino demakdish davar l'olam. Yeah, I said it backwards. With this, we're going to conclude. Really, we paskin, you cannot be makdish davar l'olam, like the Gemara in Ksubis, like Rav Yochanan Sandler. So why by us does it work? Because our case is different. Because in our case, he said yikachu yadai lo'iseim. He's making his hands hektish to their Creator. That's why it works. I asked the Gemara 1 second. He said this kacha. But her hands are meshubit to her husband. Says the Gemara, the Amra, she says, when I get divorced, that's when it's going to be hektish, will be consecrated. We're going to stop over here as the Gemara from this is going to flow all the way into tomorrow's daf. We'll restate over, of course, this last teretz as we begin tomorrow. We'll pick up from here in the next year. B'siyata d'shmaya.